What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another video here on the Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. Hit the like button if you haven't already, comment and subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back, share this out. We're trying to get to 1900 and then eventually 2000. We have a big live stream next Saturday talking about the Giants offseason with Diggy the Entertainer and Big Dash No. So I hope you guys join up for it. Again, we're trying to grow out the channel a little bit more to 1900 and of course 2000, hopefully by March, but we're trying to hit those two main goals. With that being said, I haven't done this in about 2 years, at least successfully, and that's a New York Giants ideal offseason. And basically what I do is I go through the entire offseason without a simulator. Well, the only simulator I do is a mock draft simulator, and of course I include Spot Track. But I do all sorts of signings, maneuverings. The only thing I don't do is the restructures, because those are pretty hard to figure out unless you have a simulator that does it for you. Otherwise, if you're doing it manually, it's kind of dicey and you really don't know what you're doing. So in this ideal offseason, I take reality in, and I also take what the Giants need in as well. And I go through cap casualties, I go through free agent signings, I go through the draft, and any trade-ups possible. Anyway, let's go into the first level of the offseason, which is the cap casualties. And one was pretty much already announced on Saturday, and it was already coming at some point, right? So we got Mark Lewinsky here as the first one. He is the poster boy. The New York Giants will add about $5.6 million in savings with his cut. And also, in addition to that, Boogie Basham and Aaron Robinson. I added Boogie Basham on here, and he definitely could compete for a spot with the New York Giants in training camp and all these other different things at outside linebacker with the new system with Shane Bowen, but I just don't really see him being a fit, and I feel like the Giants could get better depth. Hell, they could use that on a guy like Trevis Gibson, who's a guy that was over in Chicago, and he was also with Shane Bowen last year, so he might be a familiarity piece. But nonetheless, they cut him, and then Aaron Robinson, who is basically, you know, he's still an unknown to a certain extent, but at the same time, I mean, he's always injured. I would rather use that type of resources on something else, and, you know, that for a need to maybe address corner in the draft. So that all adds up to about $8.3 million. And the Giants, again, according to Spot Track, have about $35.4 million in cap beforehand. And I do not have Darren Waller retiring. I have him coming back for another year. So with that said, $43.7 million in cap space. Now, let's go into free agency. And of course, with this too, I'm not doing any minimum deals for this, that guy, that guy. I'm not covering like the back end scrubs of the roster. I'm covering the main key cogs. And the first one we'll do is offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor. Now, he's an interesting guy. He played with Baltimore. He played with the Patriots. He played with the Raiders. Now, why is he coming over to the New York Giants? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Number one is Carmen Bricillo. He is a guy that coached Illuminor over in Las Vegas. I believe he also coached him in New England. Illuminor, you know, played 14 starts last year, 17 games, so he is pretty reliable. And in my opinion, he really fits the slot of the Evan Neal situation. If Evan Neal goes to guard, he goes to tackle. If Evan Neal stays at tackle, Illuminor could play right guard too. And, you know, who knows, maybe I'll get another guard or something in free agency of the draft. But he seems like a reliable starter for at least low amount of money. Now, is Illuminor a guy that you trust on for the next, you know, 3-4 years? No, but 1-year contract. He's 29 years old. He has plenty of experience, and he had a solid year last year considering. So we move on. And this is the in-house signing. I do have the Giants bringing back Xavier McKinney, 4 years, $64 million. And I was debating it, but I'm like, you know what? The Giants can just, you know, I would say alleviate a need, not go in the draft, rely on a 5th-round pick, because there's plenty other needs in the draft and in free agency other than safety, and you really don't want to spend extra capital on and just not retain a guy. As Joe Shane says, you know, they want to re-sign their own guys. So we got McKinney here, and I think he will get the $16 million AAV mark. Now, the safety class in terms of safety contracts, Derwin James, right now he's at $19 million per year, Minka at $18, Jamal Adams is 17. He's set to be a free agent. Jesse Bates, 16. Harrison Smith, 16. So I think he's in that class. I mean, Justin Simmons is also a good safety. Budda Baker, I think, is set to be a free agent too. But I think he's in that class of about $16, $15 million range. And in a scheme where it's going to be a little bit more closer to Patrick Graham than Wink Martindale, I think he definitely will thrive. And hopefully he just doesn't go down and sink like a lot of guys do after the payday. This next guy I wanted several times a few years ago, and he actually did pretty solid last year. That name is very familiar if you are a New York Giants fan. That's Ronald Darby. He played with the Ravens last year. They had a couple of different injuries at corner 2, and he played all right. I have him signing with the New York Giants on a 1-year, $3 million contract, kind of a prove-it deal. And, of course, if this works out, then he goes to another team. But 16 games last year, 7 starts, 28 tackles, 7 passes defended, 44.3 completion percentage, 63.3 passer rating, 172 yards given up, and 1 touchdown allowed. So if you guys know the history of Ronald Darby, he played with a couple of different teams. He is injured a lot, and I think the Giants will get some depth at corner because of Adoree Jackson leaving, not coming back, all these different things. And Darby's 30 years old, so yes, injury history, but he plays really solid ball. And could be a vet presence outside of Deonte Banks, at least for the year. And then, if the Giants get a corner somehow or somewhere on the long term, or maybe Deonte Banks flourishes into a corner 1, that's fine too. But this is kind of a holdover signing. And the Giants really need good corners in this new Shane Bowen system. So we go to free agent signing number 4. This one I actually like for the Giants, and I'll actually go out on a limb and say I predict this signing. Josh Uche, the defensive end / outside linebacker from the New England Patriots, gets a deal with the New York Giants for about 3 years, $37 million. Or at least 37. I think I have it $37 million. It is 37, around the 37 mark anyway. So as far as that goes for Mr. Josh Uche, he's a guy in his career, he hasn't really had too much consistent playing time for a lot of reasons, right? Matt Judon's there. They're very weird in New England the way they do things. And I feel like if he gets consistent playing time, he could actually be a really good pass rusher. And at this rate, the AAV would only be about $12 million for Uche. 3 sacks, 15 tackles, 6 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss, and 15 quarterback pressures. Now, in terms of Josh Uche's career, has he ever had double-digit sacks? In 2022, he actually had 11.5 sacks, and then 3 sacks the season before, and then 1 sack the season before that, which was his rookie year. And again, you look at the pass rush snap counts for Josh Uche, it's never been above 40%. So again, if this guy gets, above 40, maybe 50, 60% of the snaps on the other side, if Ojulari's injured or whatever the case may be, I think he could flourish in Shane Bowen's system, and especially with the outside linebacker coach the New York Giants have. And I would actually take him over Bryce Huff because I don't think Uche is going to ask for as much as Bryce Huff is. He's going to ask probably within the 15, 16, 17, $18 million range for only 1 productive season. And I get it, yes, kind of in the same line as Uche, but I don't think Uche is going to ask for that much. I think he's going to get humbled a little bit. The next signing we have is running back Zach Moss, 1 year, $1 million. The Giants, as you guys can see, a little spoiler, if you haven't noticed, the Giants are not bringing back Saquon Barkley, and the Giants need a vet presence in that room. Gary Brightwell does not count, and Eric Gray is going into his 2nd year. Jashawn Corbin, more of a special teamer. Moss has started before. He got some significant playing time this past season in Indianapolis with the whole Jonathan Taylor thing, and even then he carved out a nice season, 794 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, and he's also a good guy out of the backfield, 27 catches, 192 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 7.1 yards per reception. Again, 14 games, 8 starts, and he's a quality back, right? He's a quality back that you fit in there and all that sort of good stuff. And maybe the Giants go draft a running back, but they need to have a veteran presence in that room, not named Gary Brightwell or some of these other guys. I think Zach Moss fits, and also he has the familiarity with the Buffalo guys in the building. Now, the final one is going to be a little bit of an interesting one. I know that maybe a lot of people may not be happy with me after this one, but free agent signing number 6, it is Carson Wentz. The Giants need a backup quarterback, and Tyrod Taylor, he does get injured a lot, and I know you could say the same for Carson Wentz, but I feel like Carson Wentz would ask for a little bit less considering the fact that he only started one game this past season, and he, in my opinion, still has enough talent and enough gas in the tank to be a backup quarterback. It's just the injuries hurt him over the course of his career, going to Indy and going to Washington, some really shitty situations. But as a backup quarterback to Daniel Jones and possibly a rookie, whether it's the first round or the fourth round, he could come in, and if the season is awry, or let's just say Daniel Jones gets injured and the Giants draft a fourth-round QB, but he's not ready yet, Carson Wentz could come in there and actually play solid football to where your team has a chance to win. So Carson Wentz, I have him on a $3.4 million contract on a one-year deal. And now we move to the remaining cap space for the 2024 class. It's about $8.8 million. Now, usually you want to save between $10 to $12 million for the draft class, but there's also restructures that could be involved in all sort of good stuff. So we move to the draft, but we got to do a trade first. And this is a little bit of wishing mentality for myself. In this situation, one of those three teams at the top, whether it be the Bears, the Commanders, or a team like the Patriots, one of those teams does not go quarterback. Now, it could be Joe Alt that goes to the Patriots. They're losing both their tackles. It could be the Commanders getting Joe Alt or one of these guys. In my opinion, there's definitely a good chance that three go in the top three. But also there's now smoke that J.J. McCarthy could move into the top three. Maybe not after what he showed at the Combine. Nonetheless, I think this is a fair trade. The Giants move up to fourth overall. And they trade the 6th, they trade the 47th, they trade the 107th, and they also gave up a 20-25 second. People would be like, oh, that's too much, this, that, and the other thing, we have needs, blah, 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 blah. And I disagree with that. I really do disagree with that because you're going up to get your quarterback. You're not trading up with the top three where they would want a little bit more of a haul. You trade up with New England, and they probably would want 2 seconds this year and a second next year, which, again, I would give up, and then a little bit more for 1 and 2. But the Giants need to go up and draft their quarterback, and that's what I have them doing. I have them taking Jaden Daniels in the first round out of LSU, and he's a guy I've learned to like. He's obviously quick. I wish he wouldn't take the hits that he does, but I think he could be coached out of that. And he's a dual threat guy. He's an actual dual threat guy who'll make you miss and all these other different things. So I think he could be a really good quarterback and even better than Daniel Jones. And I think he's definitely worth a fourth overall pick. In the second round, I have the Giants getting the other Texas wide receiver, and I think they need to address that situation. That is Adonai Mitchell. And now I'm going to refer to Draft Network for the scouting report. I think they got some good scouting reports. Quickness, separation, fluid mover, IQ, route runner, and ball tracking are his strengths and his concerns. High pointing the ball, physical press defenders, which, could be sorted out a little bit. Also, that was Jalen Hyatt's main concern coming into the NFL other than the route running and the route tree, and then concentration catching the ball in high traffic areas. So he will need to work on that stuff, but nonetheless, I think it is a good pick for the Giants. You move into the third round and you get Christian Haynes. He's a guy I think that could start possibly day one. You might have to develop him, but it's not Bobby Johnson anymore. It's Carmen Bracillo. So your offensive line could look like this on day one. You could have left tackle Andrew Thomas, rookie guard Christian Haynes. You could have the center JMS, Illuminor at right guard, and Evan Neal at right tackle, or two interchangeable. Or you could re-sign a guy like Justin Pugh or get somebody off of the cheap free agent market and sign them at left guard till Haynes is ready. And he's a stud. He performed really well at the Senior Bowl and impressed a lot of people. The next guy also performed well at the Senior Bowl is Ray Davis. And he's a guy I've been hearing of lately and got to watch at the Senior Bowl. The Giants will have to address the running back position at some point. Leaving it with Zach Moss, Eric Gray, and Gary Brightwell, that's not a recipe for success, even if you're going with a pass-heavy offense. And Daniel Jones, I think, will be the week one starter. He needs a running game. And Ray Davis, again, reference the Draft Network, great vision, patient running style, pass-catching upside, low center of gravity. His concerns, pass protection, only adequate explosiveness, and long speed second gear. The long speed, the straight line speed, Eric Gray has that. That's fine. If you get an adequate pass protector, I don't know if Moss is, but if he covers that area, that's fine. We don't need Ray Davis on third down. But he's a guy you could develop, and actually, he's going to be a really solid back in this league if the Giants treat him well. You move on to a guy I personally scouted as well and have a scouting report on. That's Andrew Phillips. And yes, it is very rare that you will take two Kentucky guys in a row. Sound like the New York Knicks here. But nonetheless, as far as Andrew Phillips goes, he is a slot corner. I don't have the Giants bringing back a guy in Darnay Holmes, though they could definitely do that. It's more of a zone-oriented system that Shane Bowen wants to run, even though you do need good corners. And Phillips can really thrive in both the man and the zone, and he could play the run really well too. The problem is he needs tackling refining, and I think the Giants could help him do that in that regard. And then finally in the 7th round, the New York Giants select Jordan Jefferson, defensive lineman at LSU. He's a guy I wasn't very much high on coming into the process. Didn't show a lot of flash in the games I watched at LSU. Not real high ceiling. I still think he's a 7th round pick, but he did have some good one-on-ones and 11-on-7s, but 11-on-11s at the Senior Bowl. So I think he's a rotational guy they throw in there. It's also possible they could sign a guy like Tyler Tart, who was formerly of the Titans and knows Bowen's system, and they could also draft a guy a little bit earlier just to address that position. Or do they actually believe in a guy? They won't spend the money on Denico Autry, but they will probably say either we sign Tyler Tart, draft Jordan Jefferson, a guy like Jordan Jefferson, or we rely on Jordan Riley and some of these other cats that we have in the building like DJ Davidson. So let me know, guys, in the comments what you would change about the offseason, or at least the ideal offseason. Will the Giants go up for quarterback? Will they not go up for quarterback? Just leave your comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. We're trying to get to 1,900 and eventually 2,000. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.